in our public consultation right now about the UBC scenarios, the 4 scenarios, basically 2 that are clear cutting. One leaves 15%, one leaves 35 to 40%, and then 2 active two conservation options. To look at these clear cutting, whether they're, we call them patch clear cuts, but over 30 years, they will add up and they will cause fragmentation, which, maybe you can talk about for us, what happens when you fragment, an intact ecosystem versus, cutting it into pieces and here and there and there and there, and it adds up. Talk to us about that.
There have been forestry plans developed for places like Clayoquot Sound, for example, on the west coast of the island that talk about a restricted amount of harvesting that's going to take place each year. But if you add it up over a number of decades, and we have to think in terms of decades and centuries when we're managing a forest, you pretty quickly get to 100% of the land base that ends up being logged, even if you're only logging 1 or 2% of it each year. And so I think it's important to actively plan for the area that you want to retain. And if you're trying to maintain some plant species, some beetle species, and you have a pretty good idea of where they're living right now, you can retain smaller areas. But there are creatures that live in and around the community forest that require larger patches of forest, or they will disappear. These tend to be the vertebrate animals, and perhaps some of the cyanolichens. And if you don't leave large enough blocks of intact forest, these creatures will not be part of the forested ecosystems in the North Cowichan Community Forest. A lot of the times it's because they need that interior habitat, the interior climate of the forest. And the concept of fragmentation is simply that you're not taking all of the forest, but once you start taking a block here and a block there, it's not too long before large portions of your forest are within 50 or 100 meters of a cut block.